7500 stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tobias, the co-pilot of a commercial jet flying from Berlin to Paris when it's suddenly overtaken by terrorists.
So guys,
The hijackers try and force their way into the cockpit, but Tobias manages to shut the door, but not before the pilot is killed. So it's up to Tobias to take care of the situation. The first thing he does is to radio into air traffic control a code 7500, which is the emergency code for a hijacking.
We have 7500. Several men attacked our cockpit. We stopped them for now. Status of the crew, I don't know.
They reroute him for an immediate landing, but that isn't for another 30 minutes. So he has to spend that time stuck in the cockpit with the hijackers trying to break their way in. Eventually, when they realize that they can't break their way in, they threaten to start killing passengers until Tobias opens the door. So even though Tobias was given explicit directions to not open the door under any circumstances, he has to make the decision. Give the terrorists what they want, or watch everyone on the plane die, one by one. This is definitely one of the more intense movies that I've ever seen. Seriously. This is one of those movies where, when it was over, I just sat there in silence, staring at the credits roll by, just speechless, and waiting for my heart rate to get back to normal. So if you're the type of person who can't deal with stress very well, you might want to sit this one out. There's a few things that really stood out to me in this movie. The first one is the opening. The movie starts with some surveillance footage of the hijackers walking through the airport. There isn't really a narrative or a voiceover or anything. It's just some grainy footage. And this does a great job at setting the tone of the entire movie. It's actually really haunting seeing it this way. The second thing that stood out was, other than the surveillance footage, the entire movie takes place in the cockpit. From before takeoff until the movie finally ends, we're pretty much only in the cockpit. Everything we learn is directly through Tobias and what he has access to from where he is. Whatever the terrorists are up to, he can only see through the little camera that's on the outside of the cockpit door. Everything from ground control comes through the radio. So if he's not wearing his headset, which happens often, we don't really know what's going on the ground. And for these reasons, I really liked that they did it this way. It gives the movie such a sense of realism. I mean, you can really see how a situation like this could escalate from the point of view of the pilot. And even though I ultimately really liked the decision to stay in the cockpit, it took me a little bit to get on board. When the movie starts, we're up in the cockpit with Tobias and the captain, and they're just going through their pre-flight checklist. There's a little bit of chit-chat, and that's about it.
There's just one tire with a small cut that needs to be changed tonight, okay?
All right.
And I kept waiting for the next scene where we'd meet some more like flight attendants or passengers, maybe meet some of the ground crew at flight control, even meet some of the terrorists. But those scenes never came. We just stayed there in the cockpit and I got bored. But once I realized what the movie was doing, like I said, I ended up really appreciating the ultimate decision to stay up in the cockpit. And it kind of reminded me of 1917. That movie was filmed to look like it was all one take, which forced us to spend all of our time with the main characters. So at no point did we ever know more than them.
They're not long gone.
Well, 7500, it doesn't film it as if it's all one take, but we still get the same effect. At no point do we ever know more than Tobias. So when he's confused, so are we. So we have to figure things out together, and ultimately, it just makes the movie that much more engaging. The last thing that really stood out was, throughout this entire movie, there's no music. Whether Tobias was fighting to keep the hijackers out of the cockpit, or just sitting there, coming to terms with his situation. Now, it's true that music heightens the mood felt in movies, and it very well could be the case that these scenes would have been more emotional with music. Even still, I like the choice of having no music here. The movie already has a sense of realism. The documentary-style surveillance footage in the beginning, coupled with the fact that we're only with Tobias the entire time, finally having no music, it all comes together to make the whole movie just so effective. I mean, at no point did I ever not feel what the movie was trying to have me feel. And music in some of these scenes would have made it seem more produced. The way they did it just seemed so raw. Now, I'm not saying that I want every movie to have no music, but in this case, I think it came together really well. Finally, something to keep in mind is none of this would have worked. Being in one place the whole time, following one character, having no music, it would have all been for nothing had it not been for such a phenomenal performance from Joseph Gordon-Levitt. At no point did I ever doubt his situation.
Please, I beg, please.
Under no circumstances you are allowed to let them to the cockpit.
So altogether, like I said, if stress isn't your thing, if you'd rather laugh and have fun during movies, skip this one. But if you do sit down to watch this, buckle up because it's one hell of a ride. Thanks for watching. My name's Kenny, and until next time, let's not just watch movies. Let's talk about them too. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've been hijacked. Remain calm.